Okay, I'm going to go over real quick how I created this box. It's a pretty simple box that I use to control lights on in the flight simulator. So it's just a bunch of switches. We got, I think, 10 switches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 switches. 9. It can support more. I think 11 switches is what the Arduino could probably do. At least digital switches. This uses digital switches, not analog. Um, so it's a work in progress. It's still got, I'm going to paint this black, put some labels on it to label, what each switch does, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to go over real quick how I made it, from concept all the way up to the current prototype. All right, so this is the current concept. This was the concept that I did up in Blender. Um, this is the actual box model off of DigiKey, and I'll show you the links and everything to all of this. The switches I think I got off of like one of the digital websites. There's plenty of places that you can find models out there, so it's not going to go over too much on the modeling process. That might be something else I do. But this was the concept. So I had the beacon, strobe, nav, ice, landing, taxi, dome, pitot, and fuel. I think I might add some more into this section here. Obviously the actual prototype, these were swapped over to here just because of room on the inside. But I thought about putting a master and avionics switch too, but I haven't thought through that one yet. So that's just the quick, concept that I had come up with, and now let me show you it actually working in the sim. So here I'm in the Cessna 172. This is the Crosspoint livery of the Cessna 172. So I've still got the MMA. That's the Montana Mountain Air tail number, which I need to fix. But so I'm just going to show you it working. So flip the beacon button, up, down, landing, taxi, nav, strobe. These two I don't have bound in this cockpit because there isn't anything to bind it to. But I probably will do like ice and dome or something like that. I mean it's nice that you can kind of do whatever you want. There's a fuel pump and there's pitot heat. And the cabin power is in op, I believe in this. Yeah, it's in op in this model. So now the cool thing about this is if I pull this up in X-Plane, it'll work the same way. And there's a reason, there's kind of a trick that I'll show you that I did in order to do that. But first, let me kind of open up the box and I'll show you the inside of it. So, there's still more that I have to do on the inside, but that is the Arduino Leonardo that I've attached to the back of the box. There's a USB cable. Let me see if I can pull up a flashlight real quick so you can clear that stays. Okay, so there's the USB port. It's attached to the back of the box. And then on the bottom here are all the digital ports, the digital pins. So these are all attached to digital pins, and they're connected in parallel, or they're connected. Okay, so I'm gonna caveat this: I am not an electrical guy. This is way outside of my purview. I'm more of a structures guy. So I have these connected in series, and then a ground coming from here to the ground, and then all of these are connected to single digital pins. And it goes from, I think, digital pin 3 to 11, if I remember correctly. So that's just how it's all wired up. And then I've got them all attached in. I've still got some more work to do getting the wires fixed up and everything, but it just goes back on. There's 4 screws. So 1, 2, 3, 4 in the corners. and the face is just 1/8 inch plyboard. I just took the this box comes with a plate, a metal plate. So I took the metal plate and I used it as a stencil for the outside, and then I actually did the the face of this, where these go, up in Autodesk Fusion 360. Printed that off as a one-to-one template, and then just taped it on and drilled them. So not a big deal. Pretty easy to do. It's not perfect. Some of these are kind of a slightly odd angle. I'm not a wood guy. I'm pretty much just a stress engineer. So this is all kind of new to me. All right, so back in the cockpit again, you can see, the buttons working. For the programming, so this is where I kind of had to get a little creative with the programming, because Arduino, so let me mention something real quick about the Arduino. You have to use the Arduino Leonardo or the Mega, I think. There's a specific chipset that comes in those specific ones that will handle the joystick library. This is key right now. Initially I tried using this guy, which is the Arduino Uno. It's actually Elegoo. So it's a third party, but I use the Uno, but it does not. This chipset does not support the joystick profile, the joystick library. So what does the joystick library do? The joystick library, basically, when you plug this into your computer, it makes it believe that it is a USB game controller. And so when I bring up my Leonardo, or when I bring up my game controllers, there's my Leonardo. And if I go into the properties, it has 32 buttons. It has X, Y, Z, axes, throttle, the whole 9 yards. And so the game sees it as a joystick. Now, there's another way to do this using the SimConnect. You could program this to use SimConnect. Well, the problem with the SimConnect library, especially with Microsoft Flight Simulator, is that it's very incomplete. The SimConnect has like the beacon and strobe together. They're tied together in the same port, I guess you could call it, in SimConnect. So there's no way to bind, one switch to the beacon and one switch to the strobe if I was to use SimConnect right now. The other problem is one, I would always have, I believe, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe I'd have to start a third-party software every single time in order to connect the box to SimConnect. And I would have to make sure to have SimConnect installed and blah, 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 blah. So I didn't like that, because I also wanted to be able to use this in X-Plane. Well, when I was doing the research, a lot of them said use the joystick library. Well, the joystick library wasn't supported on this, so I had to get the Leonardo. The Leonardo was like $13 off of Amazon, so definitely worth it. And so if I were to pull this up in X-Plane, it would show me the same thing. So that was the trick there. Now the second thing that I had to figure out was Arduino. The Arduino IDE comes with examples that you can use. So the joystick button example is what I started with, and you go through the joystick button example. Actually, let me pull that up real fast, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So if you go File, Examples, Joystick. Once you have the joystick library installed, you can pull this up, and then joystick button right here. Okay, so on the joystick button, what it does is on the setup, it first says, okay, we're going to do pins 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right. The input pull-up is required because you need the resistor, the pull-up resistors, because I don't have resistors actually pinned in here. Okay. Now, right here is where I had to change some things. Right now, what this does is it continually loops. So this thing, I figured this out that Arduino actually requires this, but it continually loops through this. And it's always checking the state. So what it says is, okay, I'm going to read the state of that pin. And if the state has changed, okay, so it starts off at state 0. So state 0 is like a low state. If the state changes, so if it goes from 0 to 1, okay, it's binary, so it goes 0 to 1, that means the pin has been, the switch has been toggled. Then it sets the button for that index. It sets the joystick button for that state, okay? The problem with that is that basically when I toggle this, it's like I'm holding the button down. All right, that was a problem in the sim. So when I hit the beacon light, let me get the Uno out of the way. When I hit the beacon light, right at this point in time, it always thought that that button was pushed, and so it's like I was holding down the button, and this thing would start to vibrate, like it would just start to jump up and down. I couldn't figure out what was going on, and then I realized, okay, it's because it's setting the button state to pushed or pressed, and so it always felt like it was just constantly hitting that button. So what I changed it to is there's another thing that you can do instead of setting the state, which is what this does. So this sets the button state to either 0 or 1. Instead, what I did is there's a joystick press button. So you index, you follow your index. So whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the joystick press button and then your index. So, my beacon index is 1. It presses it, and then it delays, and that's, I believe, 50 like nanoseconds, and then it releases it. Okay. There is a slight hiccup in this, in that if I start the sim and say I start the sim with my button up, or my switch up already, it will actually, I can just do it there. Okay, so it's just like that. Okay, so right now my beacon light is off. Now it's reversed. Okay, so that's the only hiccup to it. I think there might be a way to program that in there. I don't know. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal. I think there's also a way of modifying this to where it doesn't have all of these axes and things like that. Obviously, I don't have throttle or hat switches or anything like that, because you can do a point of view hat, you can do XYZ both axes, so XYZ axes and XYZ rotation. So it's got 6 degrees of freedom plus a separate one for throttle, and then you can also do a point of view hat switch. So it has a lot that you can do in this thing, plus 32 buttons. So this includes the the analog buttons too. All right, I think I have to modify that within the header of joystick, but I haven't, because you have to include this header file for joystick.h. I think I can go in there and modify. Breakdown of bill of materials and cost. So I'll include this. This is a Google sheet that I created that just kind of goes through each one. So the switches I got, they're GickFun MTS 102 2-position 3-pin mini toggle switch. All of these 3 are available on Amazon. So these are the switches that I used. This one was less than $9, plus you get Prime shipping if you're a Prime member. The Leonardo, also off of Amazon. There we go. So there's the Leonardo. I like there's actually a cheaper version of this, but I mean, not that it matters because it's buried in the box, so you can't really see it. But I just like the black and yellow color scheme. But there is one that is, I think, slightly cheaper. The wires. So I actually used wires that came in my basic starter kit for the Arduino. So they came in my basic starter kit here. But if you were to have to buy wires, this is like a 120 piece. It gives you 40 male to female, 40 pin male to male, and female to female for breadboard jumper wires. So that's what I used. I just used the jumper wires that came with the pack. But obviously, you're not going to need 120 of these, but it's only $7. So obviously, you can use them for something else. The box itself, I got off of DigiKey. So I just kind of looked around until I found one that I liked. So this is an ABS black 6.35 inch by 3.75 inch. And this worked perfect. It came in, just exactly how I needed it as far as the dimensions and everything. It includes the screws for the plate and some rubber like foot pads if you want to use them. So, and this was $12.78. But this one was the only one that actually had shipping costs associated. So I added the shipping cost of $7.99 in here for the box itself. All total about $50. You probably could get a little bit cheaper. Especially with like the Leonardo, you can get the cheaper version of the Leonardo. But otherwise, I mean, $50 for this and kind of my own time to put it together. It was fun. It's been a lot of fun to put it together. This was actually a project I started a few years back. I just kind of lost interest, and then with Microsoft Flight Sim coming out, I thought it would be kind of fun to put it to do and put something together. So I do plan on expanding, adding some additional controllers, adding some additional panels. I'd really like to do a communication panel and an autopilot panel at some point in time. So that's my next adventure in this whole thing. But pretty happy with how this turned out. It works very well. It does exactly what I want it to do, which is kind of cool, especially right out of the bat. It didn't take a whole lot to figure out. So hopefully somebody can get some good stuff out of this. So